workforce shortages, and then we'll come to disability as well. So with workforce shortages, and we sort of touched on about family engagement officers, but the question is, do the panel members agree this additional human resource would assist to reduce the workload? Gareth, I'm going to throw to you on that one, and then Mark.
Yeah, I think that the comments we've made publicly around workforce shortages is that there are a whole raft of issues we're trying to deal with in terms of both attracting and retaining the workforce that is needed. We've got massive problems in terms of the numbers of people who are coming into teacher education. There aren't enough, so there's not going to be enough supply. So the experiences we're having now, if everything stays the same, it's going to get worse. But we also have an issue around retention of our existing staff because of some of those things I mentioned before around unsustainable workloads and pressures that people are under. That is, workload is the key issue that certainly our research shows is impacting people and driving them out of the profession. It was the key issue that came through the Federal Education Department's recent survey as part of the school funding review, which is, not only causing people to leave, but when we talk to our student members, it's an issue which makes them think about not coming into the profession because they're experiencing it when they're out there on placements. I think, so we've put forward a whole raft of different strategies because there is no magic kind of answer to this. There needs to be a range of strategies. And I think, we're certainly supportive of Parents Victoria's idea around, whether it's community liaison, whatever you call it. I've been lucky enough to work in the first school I worked in as a teacher. We had, I think her title was community liaison, but she did that role where she worked extensively with our parent community and provided that really strong connection between the education staff within our school community and with our parent community. It was fantastic. It made a huge difference to have those really strong relationships, to come back to John's discussion. So, I think that's a really valid suggestion around, helping out with workload, helping out with many of the struggles that our members have in their day-to-day work, and most importantly, forming really strong relationships within the school community, which we know are going to benefit everyone as one of the avenues. But our main response is we need governments at both the national and state level to invest far more. So it comes back to where we started this conversation around funding, to invest far more in a range of different strategies. One example that came through really strongly in that discussion we had yesterday as part of the national agenda, which we put forward, is paying our student members when they do their placements. Because most of our students, whether they have families or they're single, they have jobs because that's the only way they can afford to actually study. And we have student members who've said to us, I've basically done most of my degree, but I haven't finished the placement part, and I'm not going to do it because I can't afford to give up my part-time job to actually go and teach in a school for 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is, or go particularly to the country where I think paid placements would make a really big difference to being able to give our students experiences in regional and rural schools and hopefully give them a positive experience so that they think about actually going to teach in those areas when they take up their careers.
Thanks, Meredith. Just put the marks, and then, sorry, Tuba, I know you've got, someone's over here, but
I was just going to add up to the comment that comes back to it. I've had 3 pre-service teachers training with me. There is one right now that is training with me. All 3 of them were interviewed in a private system, and they were all offered above award average, salaries, and that's it. Because all the hard work that we have done. The second one, the first pre-service teacher had a job already at a private school because she was offered. The second one, at the end of her placement, was crying because public school was way too hard to manage, and the decision was that I'm going to go and work in private because my mom works at private. And the third one had an interview yesterday. So they're all being taken by the private sector because they're given extra, and then it comes back to the funding because, well, first the workload, and secondly, they're being paid well to start off with.
It's a really good point that, because of the lack of funding, we have seen those kinds of examples quite prevalent across the system, and all of our many of our principals are telling us those examples of where they're losing existing staff or they're unable to attract. We did manage to get state government to make some announcements in the last week of term, one of which was that they're going to pay scholarship money to people to study in secondary education. And one of the aspects of that is that they will get additional money if they actually go and work in the public system. We've actually argued that we think people who get money from government should actually be bonded, as we have seen, I think it was in the 60s, last year's studiorships, that they actually should be bonded to the public system. We've put very bluntly to government and to the Secretary of the Department, the primary responsibility of government is to ensure that our public schools are able to function properly, and that means having qualified staff. That should be where their priority is. And if that means giving priority to people to teach in government schools, then that's what they should do. And we think they need to go further than what they have already done.